Ooh, psychologist is here. I love that name. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, so I got my juicer yesterday. What an ordeal. It's juicers aren't as actually easy to find as you would think. I went to a couple different stores and listen, I don't need a high-end juicer. I just need something that's going to do the trick. So I spent a lot of hours yesterday looking for a juicer. And the one I found was cheap enough. It was $80. And I had my first juice this morning, and it was celery juice. Do you guys know how expensive celery is right now? It's ridiculous. Celery stalks, a celery bunch is $5. Wherever you go, it's $5 for a celery bunch right now. I make my own soup stock, and I use celery as one of the ingredients. Like, holy crap, I can't even believe how expensive it is. It's ridiculous. Morning, Teresa. So yeah, I had my Tequila Tuesday last night, so I had a Paloma, and it's like a margarita. It's similar, identical almost, actually, and then you just replace it with grapefruit juice. So I had tequila last night, and then I had my juice this morning, and now I'm having my kick-ass coffee. Yeah, $5. $5 for a bunch of celery, and it doesn't matter where you go. Walmart, Superstore, it's even upwards of that in some of the other stores. It's ridiculous. So yeah, tequila, juice, and coffee. This is how I roll. I didn't really, this morning I've had a whole bunch of things running through my mind, like what is the topic going to be today? What do I want to touch on? I get so many questions from you guys, and I want to make sure that I'm bringing value to these conversations. And this morning, I'm just kind of all over the place. I'm all over the place with thoughts about what I want to talk about, and how appropriate. Everything is expensive. It's expensive. And it's just celery. All of a sudden, celery went from $2.50 a bunch to $5. Anyway, when Penny and I go on our walks in the morning, I always listen to one of my audiobooks. And this is how I was able to, like, I'm always listening to something, YouTube's audiobooks. And I was listening to this one that Oprah just released, Creating Your Path or something. I can't remember what it is. But what it is a bunch of different guest speakers on there talking about, discovering their true path. And I'm in a condo, Gypsy Mama. I do not have garden space. Anyway, so I'm listening to it today, and one thing that I kept coming back to was with the questions that I get from so many of you, and with the questions that I've asked myself so many times. It's like, what do I do with this? How do I manage that? And if we really listen to ourselves, our intuition is trying to tell us. We already know what the answer is. So, we so often doubt our intuition and think, because logic comes in here, and or not logic, actually. We use our brain to make decisions when our gut's already telling us what we should be doing. Implementing boundaries is one of the hardest things that I've been getting this question from a few of you in the last few days, because boundaries is what I've been focusing on here with you guys. And you meet resistance with people who are glad that you don't have any boundaries because it serves them. So when you're starting to put boundaries in place, you're going to question yourself. You're going to doubt yourself. And I think when we're looking to move forward and we're looking to have to heal, we've got to learn how to trust ourselves. Had we trusted ourselves, we probably wouldn't have done a whole lot of things in our lives. We wouldn't have gotten involved with the narcissist. We wouldn't have stayed for as long as we did, but we get to this place now where we're gaslighting ourselves after the fact, and we're not trusting what our gut is telling us. And that's where so much of the quality of our relationships really levels up. Because if we trust ourselves, we're going to trust ourselves to make the right decision. We're going to trust ourselves to make sure that, if we're going to pay attention to red flags, we're going to trust ourselves to do what's best for us every day and take care of ourselves. But trust, so many people are afraid to move forward and start dating again because they don't trust that somebody else is going to have their best interests at heart. You know what? That's probably true. A lot of people will not have your best interests at heart, but you do. You do. If you have your best interests at heart, then you're always going to do what's best for you. This is where you need to learn to trust yourself. You're going to stumble along this life. You're going to continue making mistakes, but don't be afraid to put yourself out there anymore. Trust that you're going to know how to pull yourself out of those situations when they no longer serve you. Trust that you know what's best for you more than anyone. I'm going to start dating again, I hope. And I'm going to have to start paying attention to what people show me. They're going to show me who they are. And it's my job to pay attention. It's my job to listen and trust what my gut is telling me. And a lot of what's been coming up in the last few days with clients is there are triggers and there are red flags. And we need to learn to identify the difference because not everyone is waving a red flag. And when we're implementing those boundaries, a trigger comes up when something bothers you. And I say, hey, Teresa, this really bothers me. And this is why, and I need to heal this, but I don't know how to do it right now. But, could you please not behave toward me in that way anymore? And Teresa's going to respect me and say, hey, you know what? I thank you for letting me know what that boundary is because I had no idea until you told me. But now that I know what that is, and out of mutual respect, I will be sure not to behave in that manner toward you. Thank you for bringing that to my awareness. A red flag is when you say, hey, Scarlett, what you're saying really triggers me. It really bothers me. And this is why, and I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't do it anymore. And the red flag is, aha, I found the hot button. Now I'm going to sit here and I'm going to keep pushing this button because I know what's going to piss her off. That is not a healthy situation to be in. That is a red flag. So the difference between a trigger and someone who has mutual respect for your boundaries and the red flag is someone who has no respect for your boundaries and just looks at it as an opportunity to continue to bother you. They look at it and go, well, I was just teasing. It's just a joke. Relax. Don't be so sensitive. You have boundaries. You have to trust yourself to put them into place. You have to trust yourself to make the right choice for your life. Dating somebody doesn't mean that you hold back until you find the perfect one, or that you go out there and you start dating a million people all at once. Because if you're not healed, you're going to bleed that garbage and toxicity into the next relationship. This is about you learning who you are, learning your boundaries, learning your toxic behaviors. This is about you discovering who you are and putting that focus, returning it back to self and doing the work so that you can show up and start having communication and comprehension with people in your lives. Sorry, I see something going on here. I'm so stuck on whether or not to go to the NARC 70th. Gut says no, but brain says yes. So, Lawton is talking about his narcissistic father. And I'm going to have him on one night to talk about what it's like to be with a narcissistic parent and to keeping a promise to someone, to look after those narcissistic people. It's not my story to tell, so I'm going to wait until I have Lawton on to tell you about it. But really, you guys, we've got to start learning to trust ourselves. Trust your gut. Our head is always going to try and rationalize something. But if you're sitting on the fence of indecision, that's your indecision. That is your decision. You're choosing to stay there in that energy and in that focus. So it's shifting that, returning it to yourself, taking back your power, trusting yourself that, you know what, you might stumble and make a wrong decision at first, but you can pull yourself out of it. You might go on a date with somebody and all of a sudden a few weeks in realize that they're a toxic person. And you might be dealing with another narcissist. I don't know. But you've got to be able to trust yourself enough to say, this isn't good for me. I trusted myself to put myself out there, but this isn't good for me. So it's not trusting other people. It's learning to get so freaking solid inside yourself that you know yourself better than and more intimately than any other person on the planet. Once you have that unwavering sense of self, you can move freaking mountains. Mountains, baby. With the faith of a what? Yeah. So Lawton, you know what? I know this is a very complex situation for you because it is family, and it's, you and I will talk outside of this, but I think you already know. You already know what you got to do. Teresa says, those dating sites made my mind up that, yep, I'll stay single for a little longer. Thanks, but no thanks. You know what? It's really, dating sites are so interesting and not any place I ever venture to anymore. The last time when the narc and I were on that 15-month break, I lasted on a dating site for less than 24 hours. I got on there and I thought, what the hell is this shit? Like, I really want to meet somebody organically and at the level where we're communicating with one another, we have mutual respect, we're doing our own shit, and then we come together and share that stuff together. It's just, I'm not looking for hookups. I'm not looking for, I don't want to have to create the illusion of a relationship. I want to find somebody in my life who believes that coming together is an opportunity to create a life together. We create this beautiful life moving forward, but we still get to have autonomy within our relationships because we're separate people. We have to have that autonomy so that we don't get lost in who we are and lose who we are, as so many of us have in toxic relationships. Gypsy Mama says, I'd rather date myself. And you know what? You should date yourself. You should get to know who you are. You should be taking yourself out on dates and going for dinner and getting comfortable with being uncomfortable sitting alone. Being alone is one of my favorite things to do, actually. And that's almost toxic to a level because I'll hide myself away. So it's recognizing what's serving us and what's not serving us. Where it's, sorry, my eyes are off this morning. Where it's mutual respect and mutually want to build each other up to the best that we want to be. And we should be encouraging each other to grow. We shouldn't be compromising. Like I've said to you before, there's a difference between compromising where you go for dinner and compromising who you are to be in the relationship. And that's where the learning is. That's the learning. Oh, we've got some new people here. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. So trust your intuition when you're setting boundaries with people, when you're teaching them to your kids. Man, if we teach our kids boundaries, we won't have to be teaching our daughters about why they're chasing boys who really don't want to give them any attention, and that they're willing to take breadcrumbs and table scraps. We need to implement this self-understanding and self-respect and boundaries at a very young age, so that we're not, our daughters and our sons or not sitting here doing what we're all doing now in our 20s, 30s, and 40s, you know. But the healing is all part of the journey. It's all part of our path, wherever we are. Some people are raised to be fuel. It's not their fault. Elaborate on that for me, please, Roya. Note, yes, so true. Our daughters and boundaries, self-love. Yeah, and you know what? Daughters and sons. I don't want to be gender specific here. It's just been culturally, women have been taught to serve men. And now we've gone to this absolute extreme where, you know, feminism is being viewed as mob mentality hate crimes. My mother had me so she could create her own supply. Yep, okay, I get it now. You're right. You're right. And a lot of parents do that. They have babies to have consistent supplies throughout their life. Same here, Roya. Yeah, so many, you know. But so before you got on here, we were just talking about boundaries. We were talking about trusting our intuition. And when we really learn to trust ourselves and trust ourselves enough to take us out of unhealthy situations, then trusting another becomes a moot point. What's up, Lady Daydream? So that's where I went this morning, because I was all over the place, and all I kept coming back to was that inner trust, that intuition, and listening. But that's all I got right now. I am working. I started after I got off of here. Oh, Chris. Hi, Chris. Chris says, date a lot of people, get to know yourself in the process. A lot of great people out there, but not everyone is for you. And I think, you know, that's a very valid point. You know, as we grow and change. Oh, this is something I wanted to talk about. As we grow and change, we're going to learn that we require a different type of person in our lives. And we've got to get really okay with leaving certain people behind. Because if we don't leave these people behind, we're going to stay stuck at some level in our growth. Not everyone is meant to come with you on your journey. Not everyone is meant to grow with you. And you know, this came up. They serve a place, they serve a purpose, they serve a season in your life, and leaving them behind has got to be okay. Like I said the other day, there are so many people, very few people that have been consistently in my life over the years. Scarlett, Chris, they're a couple of them, but very few. I'm just lucky that, and don't get me wrong, there are times when we go through periods where we're not part of each other's growth. We're part of our growth as friends means time apart, means going about our lives and not talking on a regular basis. Scarlett and I actually took a break. Well, yeah, we took a break. We took a break for a year. You know, and that's important too. And then you come back together and you realize that you've done some really great growing apart. Not everyone's meant to be with you the entire time, but some people are meant to go through ebbs and flows with you, and that's okay. I date a lot of people though. I'm not a good dater. I'm really not a good dater. I don't like it. I don't like dating. That's all I got for you babes this morning. This is what happens when I don't come to the table with a solid topic of conversation. My mind's just all over. I watched Game of Thrones last night and was totally not thrilled, but I'm not going to ruin it here for anyone who hasn't seen it. That's all I got. Chris has got me little ticked off this morning. He's such a great conversation starter, Godwin. Thank you. about this bill in Alabama and the sex strike. So we were talking about that this morning. I don't know how to even start trying to think of dating. Me either, haven't dated in years. Always like to be alone. Why don't you like dating? Dating scares me. You know what? Because dating can be fun, but it can also become a full-time job. You know, getting to know someone can become a full-time job. And I'm a serial monogamist. I'm not someone that is really good at dating a bunch of people. I have a lot of long-term relationships in my life. A date can be a cup of coffee or go for a walk. Doesn't have to be anything more. Fine. I have to meet people, though. I don't get out of my house enough to meet. And when I do, it's at the pub, when I'm working at the pub. And there's none of them here. And not anyone that I would date from there. I did attempt it, though. Chris, I did attempt it. This guy asked me out on a date, and I said, absolutely, let's go. And then within 5 minutes of texting him, he was telling me how crazy his slut of an ex-wife was. Like, so this is my first attempt to try and go on a date, and the guy's like waving red flags. Waving. So, anyway. I didn't even make it to the first date before he turned me off completely. It's hard to meet people and don't date anyone from a bar. You know what? I think we need to, don't date anyone from a bar. I want to say, let go of that belief system. You never know where you're going to meet someone incredible. I don't date my customers for so many reasons. But one of them is if it doesn't work out, I never want to be in a situation that is uncomfortable and my customer's coming in and turns around and walks out, or I'm having to deal with something uncomfortable. That's just not my jam. But if you're out with your girls one night and you're there having fun and you see a guy, I'm not saying go home with him that night. God knows I did that in my 20s. But you know, don't go with, but you can meet somebody really awesome. You just never know where you're going to meet them, ever. Grocery store, a bar, on a trip somewhere. You never know. So don't shut yourself off. Remain open to possibilities. That's my sign off this morning. Anyway, I commend anyone who's putting themselves out there to date right now. Don't date regulars at the bar unless that's your thing. I'm not. Godwin. So Godwin's known me for almost 30 years, and he's seen my dating history. So anyway, you can laugh. I went home with a lot of people in my 20s. Hey, that's what living's all about. Can I discuss hovering or hoovering in the next live? Shanice, I can discuss that right now. I can let you know right now before we sign off. Hoovering is a technical term for when you are going to be sucked back into a relationship with the narcissist. Hoovering is it's named after the vacuum, Hoover. So it's we can discuss it. Send me a DM with what you'd like me to cover in there exactly. But Jay Schmidt says, don't date unless you fix yourself. If you're broke, you make others broken. I don't think you make others broken. I think you bleed that toxicity into your relationship. If you're with someone who you're having conscious conversations with, and we're never 100% healed. Come on, there's always something else going on. But do not take your trauma into the next relationship. Make sure that you're doing the work to heal that. You don't want to bleed on somebody else who isn't. They're not Band-Aids. But you're also, I've said this before, I'll say it again, and then I'm going to sign off. You will meet, if you are an unhealthy person, you will meet an unhealthy person. If you are a healthy person, you will be in a relationship with another healthy being. A healthy human being does not get involved with an unhealthy one for any great length of time. On that note, I'm Trish from Badass Broad Coaching Company. I'm a narcissistic abuse recovery coach. If you want to book some time with me, click the link in the bio. Otherwise, I'm off to the salt mines today to sling some beer. And I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Stay badass. And I'm holding you in the highest energy of love and healing always. Go rock the day. Oops.